Hello and welcome to LifeTalk with Mariette. I'm your host, Mariette Camera. Blocked feelings, blocked intuition. You can't follow what you can't feel is our topic today. This show is meant to identify it, name it, and make people think. We hear a lot today about intuition, gut feelings, and inner knowing. But what happens when a person has spent years shutting down what they feel? Then intuition does not come through clearly. It gets buried under survival, habit, fear, distraction, and emotional disconnection. Many people are functioning, working, talking, raising families, and doing what needs to be done, yet they are not truly connected to what they feel. They may think they are being strong, practical, or in control, when in reality they have lost access to an important inner signal system. When feelings are blocked, intuition is blocked. And when intuition is blocked, people often second guess themselves, miss warning signs, stay too long in the wrong situations, or do not know what they really and truly want. So today we're looking at why so many people become shut down from their feelings and what that costs them in everyday life. With us tonight is Dr. Chris Gilbert, MD, PhD, and author of 10 books on the web, drchrisgilbert.com. I'll repeat that, drchrisgilbert.com. Good evening, Dr. Chris.
Good evening, Mariette. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being with us. We have Jean Thompson, LifeTalk contributor. Thank you, Jean, for making it possible.
Hi, Marietta. Thank you.
And Robert Adamo, LifeTalk contributor. Thank you, Robert, for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Marietta.
Yeah. On many of our shows, I've talked about intuition, listening to your intuition and really wonder if some of our listeners and guests really understood the subject, which prompted me to go right to the source. If you're not connected to your feelings, you can't read your intuition. It's not available. It's not possible. So tonight's topic, blocked feelings, blocked intuition. You can't follow what you can't feel. So we have 4 categories why people shut down emotionally, the self-talk behind shutdown, open partner, close partner, shutdown, sex, and intimacy. So let's get started. You're tuned into Life Talk with Marietta. I'm your host, Marietta Camera, and I'm really excited about this topic because many emotionally shut down people do have an inner dialogue, but it's often limited, rationalized, or disconnected from real feelings. Instead of asking, what am I feeling? They may ask, what do I need to do? They often talk to themselves out of emotion before they ever truly feel it. Over time, this becomes automatic. The person may not even realize how often they dismiss, minimize, or override what's going on inside. Yep. So this is our first segment, the self-talk behind the shutdown. So question number 1 goes to Dr. Chris, of course. What does emotionally shut down self-talk sound like?
That's a very good question, Mariette. Well, first, why do people shut down? It's not random. It is a protective response. So the brain is trying to keep the person safe from something it perceives as overwhelming, threatening, or too painful to process in the moment. So what happens? It happens that and the main reason why it happens is the nervous system is completely overloaded. So that creates fight or flight, but fight, flight, and freeze. So when emotions get too intense, the brain shifts to freeze response. So instead of reacting outwardly, it essentially hits pause. So that's common when there is conflict, when there is stress, and when there is emotional confrontation. What happens also as a reason for shutting down is emotional self-protection, but also, as you said, difficulty identifying or expressing emotions. And why is that? And it's usually because people are stressed out, burnt out, and completely fatigued. When somebody is completely mentally or physically drained, they may not have the bandwidth to process emotions. And a lot of people have a trauma or past experiences, and that's they've learned a survival response that resembles to dissociation, and that will be shut down. Also, there are some people that shut down because they want to avoid conflict. So they fear they're going to say the wrong thing. They feel like silence feels safer than engaging. And this is often misinterpreted as indifference. So, what it feels like from the inside, people often describe it as going blank, feeling numb or disconnected, wanting to respond but not being able to, or watching the situation from a distance. So, but it's important to know that emotional shutdown is usually not about not caring. It's usually the opposite. It happens when something matters so much that the system gets overwhelmed. So, and as you said, there will be self-talk. People are going to do self-talk. But this is what happens to me. I very often shut down as a protection because I'm so afraid of conflict. I don't want to escalate anything. So I just completely become numb usually. And that helps me because that's what I've always done in the past. And back to you, Mariette.
Hmm. Could you kindly give us a practical scenario when you shut down?
Uh,
I get very quiet. When I'm on overload, I get very quiet. I get very quiet because I can't take in anymore.
yeah.
But I think that could be two different things I may have misunderstood. So, doctor, I let you talk, please.
No, you're right. You're right. Shutting down is different than becoming quiet. It's a close cousin, but it is different. When we remain quiet, we're still open. We still feel the feelings. When we shut down, we completely not feel any feeling and completely shut down. So there is a distinction. You're right.
Oh,
You're right.
I never knew that. I never thought about that in that regard. Now, the shutdown self-talk sounds sometimes practical, controlled, dismissive. So, and yes, it's all about, oh, it's not a big deal. Just move on. Don't be so sensitive. Um, this all sounds so familiar to me. Not that I think that, not at all, because I'm not shut down. I'm open. But I heard it from my father. I heard it from a husband. Um, so all of this, and when I hear these words, they're very, very hurtful. Now I like to bring in Jean.
Yes.
I remember in one of our talks, in one of our talk shows, we talked about having your voice taken as a child. And
No.
I remember you're sitting, you shared your story sitting at the table, and you were only supposed to talk when adults ask you to,
Yes.
something like that.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's what just came to mind.
Mhm.
Did that stay with you your entire life?
Oh yeah, it not only stayed with me, it affected my entire life up to this point until I found myself. But man, I just want to say after Dr. Chris giving that thorough that thorough answer, we can almost sweep the floor and turn out the lights. But that was really good. But yeah, it affected me my whole life. There were times growing up, even in school, I was afraid to even raise my hand when I knew I had a good opinion or the right answer because of that, what was embedded in me as a child was not, it was always, shh, be quiet, don't talk, don't say anything, I'm doing this. especially around adults. And when that happens to you as a child, um, over and over again, it's a form of program. Am I right, Dr. Chris? It can be like a programming that
Yeah,
happens.
absolutely. Absolutely. You learn how to deal with the situation and it works. When you shut down, it works. There is no conflict. You're not attacked. So then you continue doing the same thing. It reinforces the wiring of those cells in the brain. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. And it worked on me negatively because things I wanted to accomplish in life, I was unable to do them because I was so shut down so much and so nervous and falling apart inside because that part of me had been basically locked up like in a prison. And I couldn't achieve the things that I wanted to do. And it made me kind of manic to the point where I would have these bursts of like energy and I would be totally how would you say like an extrovert. And then right after that I'd cowl right back down into myself and I would
Oh,
have no opinion. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't think. My brain wouldn't work. And whenever I would get into that situation, I would just become I would just shut down. I'd become a nervous bag of just nerves and couldn't do anything. So yes, Maria, it definitely affected me
mhm,
until I found myself. I think
mhm.
there comes a point in time where you have to overcome that. Just force
Yes,
yourself
yes,
in small increments to break your way out of that, out of that prison. And that's
yes.
what I did. And finally, I came out. I'm not all the way there. I would be lying if I, said I was. But I'm getting there little by little, increment by increment, by doing things like this. And thank you for inviting me on because you don't know this helps me a lot. It helps me a
Mhm.
lot. So
Oh,
yes,
mm.
I hope that kind of answered that.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Robert, I'd like to bring you in. And when we had our last, the monthly exchange, when you were the host and with Dr. Chris and myself, um, one thing, and the show aired again today on television, and I was listening to it from 2 to 3, and it said something. Remember, we talked about does intuition feel this? Feels close. It's close to fear.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yep, of
And
course.
I
Mm-hmm.
I looked that up because it bothered the heck out of me.
Hmm.
And if I find my notes quick enough now, if not, I'll continue. I have to continue. I'll get back to you on that one. But the gist of it, your when the intuition talks, it says something once but quietly.
Mm-hmm.
And fear talks very loud and consistently. And it's almost like a warning signal that goes off and brings you till you're in that panic mode. This is
Mm-hmm.
I'm wrapping this up. I have a whole page of it. I can't find it between my notes right now. Right now, I know they're right next to me, but I can't find it right now. But that's exactly what it is because I said no. I said that intuition feels different from fear, but I couldn't put words to it.
Right.
So I looked it up. So when you feel fear, the fear brings you into constantly. It's loud and constantly works on you. You should, and if you don't do this and that, and intuition just says it once, quiet and grounded. I just wanted to
Right.
say that.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why it's so tough to distinguish, in my opinion, that was that thought that I just had, that little soft voice, that was that intuition or was that irrational thinking and fear? So, because for me, and Dr. Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, fear falls into two categories: fears that are justified and then ones that are unjustified. If we woke up every day worrying that a meteor was going to hit us because one hit us 65 million years ago, I'd probably say that that was an unjustified fear. But if you visit the city every day and are on the subway and in traffic, and uh, every few days you almost get hit by a car, then maybe waking up every day going, I hope I don't get hit by a car today, isn't as irrational as we're going to get hit by a meteor. So, while those are two very drastic scenarios, I think our day to day life, um, we focus on what's going to happen today, good, bad, or indifferent. And if you find yourself that you may be going into a dangerous situation, like the day that I broke my shoulder, I was working kind of odd jobs and a lot of manual lifting and heavy equipment and standing in precarious places. And I'd been doing it for a month or two. And somehow my body knew, like, I'd already gotten pretty lucky to get through the last 4 to 6 weeks without getting hurt. But today was going to be different. And had I listened to my intuition, I wouldn't have a broken shoulder because I wouldn't have fallen out of the truck that I was in. But I had to go to work that day. I had to eat and I had to earn money. So I pushed that thought and that fear and that everything out of my head. And the problem with the intuition is it's not clear enough to be like, oh, at 9:32, you're gonna fall out of a truck. But better not be lifting anything at 9:32. No, but you can get a sense for that day, something, you know, could happen. Keep an eye out, keep a watch, be extra vigilant. But again, the voice was so soft that and because I had so many overriding, if you maybe you want to call it a fear that overrode it, was the fear I wasn't going to eat the next day. So my fear of not eating in the very near future was overrode my sense, like, hey, I think I should take today off because I'm just not feeling it. But
Yeah,
I had to do it. So
right.
sometimes the fears and the little soft voices, they all get mixed in together.
Not with
And you're
us, not
right,
not
though.
when you work with it every single day and when you have a track record with intuition. It's very clear. Because it has to be, it
Right,
takes
but
time.
if
There's a
you're
life
given the
over your
choice,
lifetime, over your
okay,
lifetime. We were
right, but
talking, sorry to interrupt you, but we were talking about, um, look at little babies. They're in the carriage and the mother's out on the street. A stranger looks in the baby carriage and the baby starts screaming. Yeah. Why?
mhm.
Yes.
I say, and I'm going to ask Dr. Chris in a minute, and I say, that little baby has a bad feeling toward that stranger. That's why the baby starts crying. So, Dr. Chris, what do you think? And it can't articulate it yet, so it cries. So we have these feelings right from the very start.
Yeah.
Dr. Chris, I'd like to bring you
Yeah, it's complex, Mariette, because
in.
you're right. That could be a real intuition that the baby is afraid something bad is going to happen. But it also could be that the baby is used to see mom, is used to see dad, and is used to smile to mom and dad. And if there is something different that happens, then the intuition says it's different. I should cry. But that could be sometimes there is a good intuition that could bring good things, and sometimes there is a bad intuition that could bring bad things.
Mhm.
Because think, if you're used to like a destructive relation, if you're used to having people scream, mom and dad screaming all the time at each other, then baby is going to be used to that. And the first time baby is going to be in the quiet, the baby is going to say, "Oh my God, what's happening? This is not familiar." And baby might cry because
Mhm.
it's not familiar, and yet it will be good. So the intuition, we've got to train our intuition really. And it's possible to train our intuition for something good to result from it. But sometimes the intuition only reacts to something different to what we're used to. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So it's complex, Mariette.
Right, but I just wanted to, not that I need to be right, but I want to understand it. So even as a kid, you're open with your feelings till you're being told, don't do this, don't do that, and don't cry, don't do this. And little by little, you're being shut down. That's the point I want to make. And then I remember um, uh, somebody who was very close to me said that he was humiliated by his teacher in front of the class. And that's when he shut down. That's when he shut down. And he's exactly what we're talking about tonight. Is not in touch with his feelings, minimizes everything, and so forth. But let me move on. One more question on this segment: how does this inner dialogue affect intuition when somebody's shut down and they have their own dialogue? Oh, don't do this, don't do that, and they minimize everything. How does it really affect then their intuition?
Who is that
Eh,
question for?
Dr. Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, it's true that the intuition, you're right, the intuition is not going to be as loud when the people are shutting down. Sometimes the intuition is a little teeny voice, just like a whisper, and the more the person shuts down, the more it's just a whisper and maybe doesn't exist anymore. You're right. So, I can tell about my example. It's true. I was exactly in the situation you were talking about with parents, especially a mother, telling me, don't do this, don't do that, just be the way she wanted. She wanted me to be a certain way. I learned to be that certain way that she liked. So I did my intuitions. I did still have a little bit of intuition, but not much. I basically shut down each time I was in contact with other people because I was trained to be a different person that I was really inside. But it took me years. It took me years to be able to be open to my intuition, to be open to who I really was. It took me coming to California and doing some Gestalt practice on myself and discovering that I could be myself. It was something completely new to me. I was, my God, really? I don't need to shut down. I can be myself. And that was the opening of a blossoming of my own self. But without me coming to California, if I had stayed in France, I would probably not have blossomed like this because I would never have been in contact with people, doing a Gestalt session on me.
Mhm.
And till this day, my my inclination, my first reaction as a knee jerk is to shut down whenever something happens. And my husband he says, no, 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 you cannot shut down. Express what you're feeling. And I say, okay, okay. And then I'm very happy that I do it. But again, it's somebody from California. It would not be a French person. Well, I should not
Yeah,
generalize,
yeah,
but
yeah. My notes say people second guess themselves. So when the inner voice is trained to dismiss feelings, intuition becomes harder to hear and trust. And these people, you can't talk to them about feelings, and they they make fun of you. That's what I experienced. So here's one we're going to get to that in segment 4 in a partnership when you have a partnership and how they really dismiss you with your feelings. I know my father did that with my mother, and I had it with my husband. Anyway, so let's go for a quick break. We're back from our break. I'm Marietta Cameron. You're listening to Life Talk with Marietta. Now, segment 3, open partner, closed partner. So, why is the relationship with a closed partner so difficult? Why are they so difficult, Dr. Chris?
Well, why is it so difficult? Because you can't know what that person is really feeling. You're always second guessing, as you said. So there are misunderstandings.
Mhm.
What is this person really thinking inside? Maybe this person is doesn't like me. Maybe that person, you're just imagining all kinds of things with a close partner. And it's really, really difficult when there is an open partner, then that's how you build real trust. That's you don't need to second guess anymore. So when the person is closed up, you cannot deepen the emotional intimacy. You can't, because the person is not expressing their fears, their needs, their insecurities, then you feel you cannot express also your fears, your needs, your insecurities. So then the relationship remains on a very superficial level, doesn't get deep. And when it gets deep, that's when the real wonderfulness of the relationship happens. But you need to not be afraid of what happens when you get deep, and you need to not be afraid of who you really are and express your fears, express your needs, express your insecurities, express what your boundaries are, express what your preferences are. That it's a real risk for some people to do that.
We need to learn so much, but the first thing is we really need to have a stretch of time with ourselves, develop and know what we need, and that takes a few years. So, and then really find a partner if you're still interested in a partnership. It's just you're learning till the day you go from this earth. I like to bring Jean in. Jean, I
Yes.
know you were married,
Yes.
and if you don't mind talking about it, just share what you feel comfortable. How has some of the offness,
Yes.
how has that affected in your part? How has it affected your partnership?
Well, that partnership has been over a long time. And it got ruined because there wasn't any openness to having intuition about um from my side, from my point of view. From her point of view, I'm such a free spirit that I want you to know everything about me. I'll talk about anything. I'll be of any help in any kind of way as possible. But I did not get the reciprocity from her. So I was always walking on eggshells all the time. So I could never figure out, like Dr. Chris was saying, how to uh, make her happy because she was closed off, and she used that method of being closed as a form of manipulation so she could control the relationship. So I'll give you for an example. If I don't really know you, my intuition will never kick in to know how to um, treat you as a partner or even as a person. Because I might, if I know you like flowers, I might get a feeling that day, oh, she feels happy and really nice. I'll bring her flowers. And oh, baby, thank you for bringing me flowers. But if I don't know that about you, then I'm stuck because I don't know what to do. And that's how it was in that relationship. And it went on like that for 15 years. And it was really torture because it was like we were talking about earlier, it was like I was back at home with my father saying, shut up, don't do this, don't do that. And I felt like I was immersed right back into that same thing. And so it's very hard if that person has built a wall around themselves, but are still asking you to come. If you're knocking on the door, but they won't open the door, but they're still saying, come in. So you don't really know what to do to make the relationship better, because you're right about saying intuition, but you need that intuition to feel that person to know how to uh, not make them happy, because you can really only find happiness in yourself, but to uh, please their wants out of life within a relationship. But
Hmm.
it seemed like uh, she didn't want that. The most important thing to her was control, control of the relationship, control of me, control of the children. And through doing that, she was ruining everything. So I think in a relationship, you have to be um, very open with one another. You have to let a person know, what what hurts you most or what makes you happy. Um, just be open with that person so they'll know. So your intuitiveness, if that's a word, will kick in. And whenever that person is going through anything, you can walk in the room and say, "Oh, it's something I'm feeling, or I'm feeling like it's something wrong." And you'll know exactly what to do to fix it, because that person has let you know enough about them that it would just come to you what to do to take care of that problem in a moment, at least minimize it. But when there's a wall around there, they put up a wall. It's like someone saying, what's in the other room, in that box in that other room?
Hmm.
Well, if I didn't know what was in that room, I could not tell you what's in the box in the other room. But if I was in the room when you put it in, then I would know. I know that's like a kind of like an
No,
oxymoron.
you know, this is this up and down thing is very,
Yeah,
very difficult. It's very, very difficult.
yes,
And that is talking about anxiety all the time,
yes.
all the time. Eggshells, that's what it tells me. Robert, if you
Exactly.
feel comfortable sharing what your thoughts are on this and what you experienced.
Well, I think not only does different people obviously experience everything differently based on how we grew up, but I think both men and women have different intuition in the sense that men are raised in a certain way to more or less think logically and not emotionally, whereas women tend to be raised to think emotionally and not as logical as men. Not that, you know, it's not a contest, but I think just in general, um, the ways that were raised dictate that. For instance, boys play with cars or army men or certain things, but they're not very imaginative with their games in a sense. And so compared to girls who might play with dolls and they're inventing fantasy lives for all these different characters, and that I think allows them to develop the more of the intuition and that emotional attachment and knowing, oh, if Barbie doll and Ken, they're not getting along because Ken did this. And if they're thinking about that at a young age, 5, 6, 12, in those formative years where boys are just, thinking cowboys and Indians, bang, bang, you're dead. It's totally different wiring of the brain. So when we grow up, we tend to grow up in kind of two different lanes. But I've experienced a lot of the same things Gene talked about and Dr. Chris, but in different parts of my life because my parents were divorced. So half the year I spent with my mom and half the year I spent with my dad. And in those different environments, they fostered or shut down different things. And when I stayed in California with my mom, a lot of times I was at my grandparents, and my grandparents had the same rule as in Gene's house, which is, if you're under 18, you don't speak until spoken to, especially if you're at the dinner table. So it didn't matter what your intuitions and your thoughts and you couldn't say anything. Otherwise, you'd be sent over in the corner. So, but in other households and in other times, you can express your thoughts and ideas and be more open. And that's what I think fosters the allowing to to have intuition. And like Gene says, knowing the other people and knowing, oh, so and so is sad. If I do this, that might make them feel better. Or, I can see they're having a tough day. I should try to do this. And it really comes down to being allowed, though, into the other people's lives and not just shut out, as we've heard here a few times from almost everybody. So, I agree, but I think so much of it is we're trained to be a certain way at a young age. And then even as we get into our teenage years and into our formative years, you were really told, stop acting like a kid, just do this, 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 and this. Go earn money, go work 9 to 5, go do that. Stop with the pipe dreams and the imagination. And so society as a whole also shuts us down at certain points rather than having us follow our intuition and our gut. Like, oh, I don't want to work that job. I'd rather do something that makes me feel good. And while
Mm.
those feel good jobs don't necessarily pay as well, they do lend to a better life down the road, I feel sometimes. So,
Well, that's on the transactional end now. You're moving into that, what you just said. So
mhm,
what I'm gathering is, and not that I want to pick it apart. I know the upbringing is very, very important, and if we're being shut down by our environment, by our parents, grandparents, it will have an
mhm,
effect on us. That goes without saying. But
mhm,
feelings are the most important thing to me. Um,
absolutely. Mhm.
and I honor them. I honor my own feelings, other people's feelings, very, very important. And anyway, let's go for a quick break and then we start segment 4. We're back from our break. I'm Marietta Kammerer, Life Talk with Marietta, you're listening to. And in segment 4, shutdown, sex, and intimacy. Now we're getting really to the nitty gritty. Emotional shutdown does not stay neatly in one corner of a person's life. It often shows up in intimacy as well. When a person is disconnected from their feelings, it can be hard to relax, trust, receive, stay present, or fully connect with the partner. What looks like a physical or sexual issue is often tied to emotional distance underneath. Let me get right to the question to Dr. Chris. How does emotional shutdown affect intimacy? We have the doctor with us today. We're allowed to talk about this.
Absolutely.
I love it.
When people shut down, there is a difficulty. I mean, especially for women, when a woman shuts down, there's a difficulty with arousal and responsiveness. There's a reduced desire. The libido drops uh, because arousal requires some level of safety. You need to feel safe. And if you don't feel safe, if you cannot say whatever you want, if you can't express your feelings, then you're going to have you will be less aroused. There is also less of a loss of emotional intimacy, less vulnerability. You cannot be open, so there is less affection. The conversation will become just on a surface level. Um, and some people may continue to have sex while emotionally shutting down, but it will feel mechanical.
Mhm.
So the internal dialogue might sound like, I should want this, but I really don't. I should just go along with it. I should just disconnect and go through it and just let it be, and hopefully it will last just a short time. uh, and when people are emotionally absent, as a consequence, there is less emotional connection, less enjoyment, and the partner may sense that something is missing, which could be misinterpreted by the partner. The partner might think, maybe you're not attracted to me, or did I do something wrong, or maybe you don't care anymore. So that misunderstanding can create resentment or insecurity, and then you've got a loop over time where emotional stress first, then shutdown, then that gives reduced intimacy and sex, then that gives the fact that the relationship tension grows, which gives more stress, which gives a deeper shutdown. And then as a result, you're going to feel alone while together. That's one of the most painful consequences, is coexisting without any connection, with a physical proximity but an emotional distance. And that's really difficult to live through. So that's why I would encourage everybody to not shut down and to open up to the partner, because then everything reverses and it's really wonderful. But I want to do a distinction. Shutting down does not mean that we don't love the partner, we don't desire the partner. It often means that we don't feel safe emotionally to express our feelings, and we don't know how to be present while being vulnerable. And that can be learned.
I bet a lot of people have that in their partnership. I bet you.
Hmm.
I bet you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
Now for women, emotional shutdown can make it difficult to relax, feel safe, let go, or reach orgasm. Now for men, emotional disconnection may show up as fantasy, pornography, detachment, or difficulty being fully present with a real partner, what you said as well. That is something, if somebody is in tune, and especially when you're a little older, not when you're 20 and 30, that's a whole different attraction, but when you're a little older and life experienced and have walked a little ways in your life, self-improvement and whatnot, you can feel that. You can absolutely read them if a person is shut down, if you concentrate on it. It's the way they touch you, not only physically, but also with words. It's the whole thing, just like we did a list one time when we started, a long time ago, we started talking about making lists when people first meet partners. That list is getting longer and longer, like a roll of toilet paper, for crying out loud.
Mm.
But it's true. We want to find out if that person is open, not just for the moment when they find us attractive and we're dancing and we're attracted to one another. Um, what would you recommend, doctor? Because I didn't research that. What would you recommend? You're attracted to somebody, the relationship is new. What would you concentrate on? Whether it's the man to the woman or vice versa. So not picking a sex here.
I think it doesn't matter, but one of them needs to start and be open and show openness and say what their boundary is, what their preferences are, what they feel, and then ask the partner, what is your boundary? Now I express mine. What is your boundary? What are you feeling? What is it? So show the way to the partner, and the partner will either be able to follow and open up, or the partner will not be able to follow and open up. And in which case, you could try several times, but if at the third or fourth time there is still no opening in the partner, then you need to make a choice. Do I want to continue this relationship, knowing that it will probably be the same after several years, or do I want to try somebody else that will match my being open?
Mhm.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, everything is linked. I think if you can talk about the feelings in general, then you can talk about sexuality also. I mean, although some people might not be able to. Well, but it's a step forward. If
Question, why do people have a problem with talking about sexuality? About their own sexuality or sexuality in general?
well,
Why is it? Why are they inhibited to talk about that?
from the people I talk to, it's their upbringing. In their family, nobody could talk about sex. It's yours, the first few years of life. I mean, the first 18 years of life where in the family it was not allowed to talk about sex. People had to make their experience and learn about sex outside of the family. It was the case in my family. In my family, it was absolutely not possible to talk about sex. I learned those kinds of conversation after when I got to be 18 or afterwards. Otherwise, no. Which I think it's too bad. I think it's good when parents can talk freely about sex and kids can ask questions about sex. I mean, in my in my opinion, nothing should be taboo because everything is important
Hmm.
later in life.
That's right. And we just from the 60s, we weren't raised that way. Nothing was discussed. And then you go out in the world and everything is a big shock. What
Yeah,
the opposite sex looks like,
yeah,
how they react, and
yeah,
everything is a big it's a big deal.
yeah.
It's
And then, yeah, go ahead.
no, I that's all it shouldn't be a big deal. It really shouldn't be a big deal. So, but it's also up to us to really learn, not just from our relationships, but also educational, how our
Right.
body functions. And I say it again, how we personally tick is important. So for that, we have to have time with ourselves. We have to give ourselves time and not right away get married early like I did. But I did learn. I did learn through all the different phases in life because I wanted to learn. But one thing um, I am not when it comes to talking about sex, that is very important. If you are in a relationship, to some people it may not be. To me, it is. And if you're constipated in that department, that's going to make it a little tougher. I don't think I'm interested, and I don't have that much time left in my life that I can teach somebody. So they have to want to learn that and feel comfortable with it. That wouldn't be a partner for me, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. But
Robert,
then
I like, yeah, go ahead,
but then
Robert.
you've got women that are being told their whole life, I mean their whole life until they're 18 that sex is bad.
Hmm.
So then when they get married, they can't make the adjustment. They still think that sex is bad. This is their underlying wiring of their brain, and they can't enjoy sex. They can't have orgasms. They cannot have pleasure because it's still that writing that sex is bad that is there. So I've had several patients like this that could not enjoy sex because of their wiring by their parents when they were young.
That's terrible. But they have choices that can be all addressed with a professional person. It can be all addressed if you want to.
But yeah, but when you have that wiring done until you're 18 years old, those neurons in your brain think that sex is bad. It's just that wiring is established. How do
Right.
you change that wiring? It's really hard sometimes.
A question, just think what relationship they have. Just think what the husband has to go through.
Exactly.
It's a total. It's not a pleasure. Nothing is a pleasure anymore. I hope they have a good mattress, a good, at least they get good sleep. They get good sleep. They get something out of it. No, it's really true. If one person hates it because of the way they're wired, and the other person, there is no satisfaction. There is not and no enjoyment.
That's true.
Mm.
But sometimes men like the challenges. So it's
Oh
like, oh
boy.
yeah, that's a challenge for me. Okay, I'm going to get her. I'll be the Prince Charming. I'll be the white knight on the horse and I'll teach her. I'll be the one saving her. And the men will like that. They will say, yes, I can change her. Where in reality it's really difficult to do, but they like the challenge.
Well, Robert, I'd like to bring you in on this topic.
Absolutely. And I think that goes what you just said, Dr. Chris, is the last part. I think both men and women like a challenge. Women sometimes will look at a potential mate and, well, okay, he's not perfect, but I can fix him. And, I've even heard that from people I've dated, where a year in, they're like, oh, you really got to stop smoking. And I'm like, well, when you met me, I was a smoker. And their next thing is, yeah, well, I thought I could change you. And I'm like, okay, next, because I don't need somebody who's going to live their life trying to change me. Um, so, you know, both both sexes, I think, are guilty of that. But definitely sex in general has been a taboo subject in many cultures for a long time, and then in other cultures, it's more open and um, you know looked at as not as taboo. And like Dr. Chris says, certain people aren't raised as sex is bad, and if you do this, you're going to ruin your life, and this, that, the other. And sure, we don't want people having kids at 14, 15, 16 years old, but we also shouldn't ingrain it into such a point where the person then, like Dr. Chris says, they grow up basically frigid and not able to have enjoy that part of adult life that, yes, they shouldn't be doing it as kids, but once you become an adult, it's a normal, healthy, and can be a fun thing with the right person. But it does the early stage wiring is definitely can affect it. And for me, I know, going back to the earlier part, speaking of intuition, we're very good, humans in general are very good at reading facial expressions and nonverbal cues. And when you're shut down, you don't smile at the person the same way. Your eyes don't light up the same way. You don't run over to them and give them a big hug for 30 seconds or a minute. And the other person, if you're not doing those things because you're shut down, the other person can sense that. They might not know, oh, she didn't run over and jump in my arms and hold me for 30 seconds, but the body knows she didn't smile at me the same, or, her eyes weren't sparkling like they were when we first met or first go out on dates and stuff like that. So I think the shutdown is part of what Dr. Chris is saying is super important, because as we shut down, our visual cues to our partner change. They pick up those visual cues, they change. And next thing you know, there's this silent cycle of the whole relationship shutting down. And then often right before people visit the divorce attorney, the phrase, I don't know who you are anymore, you've become a different person, we've grown apart. All those phrases come out because the people basically shut down and still live together and still try to keep their marriage together if that's where they're at, or just dating. But because they're both shut down by that point, they have grown apart and they have become different people and all those things. And so I think everything, I've lived a lot of the things Dr. Chris has mentioned, and Gene, and also yourself, Mariette. So I think that's how I see it from my point of view.
All right. We have a couple more minutes left. Jean, I'd like to bring you in. What
Okay.
is your opinion?
Okay. Well, I've been listening so hard. Could you reframe the question again for
I've
me?
been listening so hard, now I can't even tell you. So we're talking about when a party is shut down and the other one gets
Oh,
very little out of the relationship, and
okay.
of course it affects them all around.
Okay.
And I just wanted to get your advice
Okay.
on that.
Okay. Wow. Wow. This is a big one. Um, I think it depends upon, let me give you just part of my life. Uh, me
In two
coming up.
minutes, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Oh, I was damaged goods. So these persons that I found in life, it seemed like I would always pick these people that were damaged like me, and it was always a conflict. So I think before you get started in a relationship, I think you should, like Dr. Chris said, sit down, have a good conversation, find out where you were in life if that person is willing to open up. So you'll have a good start in the relationship. And then when you get in, you have to have respect for one another. So everything will flow evenly. Be truthful, be open, and to what your wants are, your do's and your don'ts. And very quickly, I just think things will work out from that point. But I think truth and honesty are the most two important things. And the second thing is respect. And
Absolutely.
you can have any.
Absolutely. I love that because that's all we can do. Sit down with one another and share it. Share really what we have, where we started and what we learned. I
Yes.
think we owe that in order to start something something meaningful, we need to do that. So in closing, when people are emotionally shut down, they may still function, they work, talk, and carry on with life, but something important inside is missing. Feelings are not just emotions to be managed, they're signals. They help us understand ourselves, connect with others, and sense what is right, wrong, safe, or off. When those feelings are blocked, intuition often becomes weak, confused, or silent. So this is not about being emotional. It's about being connected enough to yourself to know what you feel, what you need, and what your inner life is trying to tell you. I think we owe that to ourselves. I'm adding this. We owe that to ourselves that we reach that in life. Because if we leave that department closed, you haven't lived. That's my personal opinion. Because when feelings are blocked, intuition is blocked, and that affects far more than people realize. Dr. Chris, I'd just like you to have the last word. You don't live if you can't feel. How
That's
would you
right.
look at that?
That's right. Learn to feel, learn to explain to your partner what you feel, learn to explain what you need, and create a feedback loop of honesty with your partner. And so both people will evolve emotionally. There will be mutual growth. And so that the relationship becomes a place of development, of growth. And that's the goal. And when you manage to achieve that, it is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and mostly to yourself. You owe it to yourself that you know what you feel. When you see something beautiful and you can't really feel it, when I look at something very beautiful, when I look at a little baby, I feel something. I see this little life, this innocent little life. I feel something. Or when I look at an animal, when we look at beautiful things in life, at nature, I feel something. And I'm glad I can feel it, you know? So I want to thank all of you, Jean, Dr. Chris, Robert, for being here tonight and for sharing your expertise. And till next time, I'm Mariette Cameron.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mariette.
All
Have a
right.
good night.
Good night.